Hello, and welcome back to this incredibly chaotic series where I am gossiping with you guys about all of the drama going down in my current Sims 4 rotational save. If you've never heard of a rotational save, this is where, basically, you spend a bit of time playing in one household before jumping into another and essentially just rotating around all of your different Sims. It's a very, very fun way to play that lets you explore multiple different families and create these interesting, interwoven stories, and also allows for a lot of chaos, as we have discovered so far. I went into this cycle of gameplay intending to take a break from all of the chaos. Last episode, we had a new relationship, a wedding, and 6 new babies in a series of events that bordered on utterly ridiculous. But the Sims gods were clearly not in favor of my more chilled approach this time, and served up a giant helping of complete and utter chaos across the board. So, we are spending our first week with Parker Woodward. And this is a big moment because this is our first random townie week. So far, all of the households that we've played have either been Sims that I made myself from scratch, like Paige and Dusty, or they're pre-made Sims who are part of the, established Sims universe. Parker, on the other hand, was a randomly generated Sim, meaning that the game was wanting to populate the world a bit more, so it just chucked together a Sim and made her wander around Oasis Springs. But often, these random Sims end up interacting with your played households, meaning that, in this case, Parker ended up becoming friends with Dina. And with the way that I like to play, when I see these random Sims show up in my Sims relationship panels, I like to find them in the household bin and flesh them out a bit, give them a makeover and a place to live, so that they're properly integrated into the world, and thus into our story. Parker caught a few people's eyes in the background of episode 3, and has been requested a fair bit, so I thought we'd start off this episode in her household. Parker Woodward is a spellcaster, which is the Sims equivalent of a witch or a wizard or a mage. Her traits are foodie, maker, and mystical. Her lifetime aspiration is the one that came with the Crystal Creations stuff pack. 100% my favorite stuff pack, by the way. She was unemployed when I loaded into the household, which is pretty common for these randomly generated Sims. They usually don't have jobs. But with Parker, I reckon she had actually been a stay-at-home mum up until this point. But now that her daughter is at school, she's ready to pursue her dreams of jewelry making. She's married to Beckham Vaughan, who is a scientist and an alien, and together they have a daughter, Lacey, who looks like an alien but is actually a spellcaster. If you didn't know, Sims can only be one type of occult, so Lacey wouldn't have been able to be an alien and a spellcaster. When she was born, she would have had the chance to be either an alien or a spellcaster or just a completely normal Sim. But Sims with alien parents still sometimes get the alien genetics, like the physical alien features but without the alien powers or the alien voice, which is the case for Lacey. Parker's social circle is pretty small. She's friends with Simone, Babs, and Dina. Now, when I decided to play this household, I was expecting some wholesome family time. I thought Parker and Beckham made a pretty cute couple, if a little bit unconventional. So imagine my surprise when I checked the relationship panel and discovered that Parker and Beckham have basically no friendship and actually have a negative romantic relationship. So I did some digging, and it turns out that Beckham is having an affair with a younger woman. I didn't mention this, but Parker and Beckham are both adults as opposed to young adults. Nothing much changes with this distinction. Your Sims get a few more wrinkles and have the chance to have a midlife crisis. If you're curious, these are the different ages of the Sims in this save. As you can see, most of the people we've spent time with so far have been young adults. Anyway, yes, Beckham seems to be having a bit of an affair with Ryan. This seems to be in direct contrast with Beckham's lifetime aspiration of having a big, happy family. Lacey seems to be completely unaware of this. She has a great relationship with both of her parents. Actually, it's slightly higher with her dad, which I think makes sense. She wants to be a scientist and everything. She idolizes him. And interestingly enough, Parker doesn't seem to be aware of this either. Her and Beckham are clearly on the rocks, but Ryan doesn't show up anywhere in Parker's relationship panel, so she must not know about the affair. Unclear on whether Ryan knows about Parker, though. Parker has some wholesome bonding time with Lacey. They go to the park a lot. Parker actually ends up developing the childish trait whilst pretending to be a sea monster as Lacey plays on the playground. It's quite cute. Again, Lacey is completely unaware of the rift between her parents. Then, one night, Parker goes out for a night with the girls. Nothing much happens for Parker. She dances, she chats. It turns out that her friend Simone can't speak Simlish. That's like the native Sims language. I have the languages mod installed, linked in the description. And because Simone is an alien, she can only speak the alien language. So I'm assuming she's pretty new, not just to Oasis Springs, but to this world generally. Whilst Parker is out enjoying herself, I thought I would stir the pot a little bit by switching back to Beckham and inviting Ryan over for a little sneaky rendezvous. But when she came over, Beckham couldn't do any romance interactions with her. At first, I was worried that the game had bugged out and labeled them as siblings, because I've had that happen with married couples before, and it is very annoying and thoroughly disturbing. But that wasn't the case. They had an established romantic relationship, so there was seemingly no reason why this shouldn't be working. Eventually, I gave up and sent Ryan home, bringing Parker back from the club once she was gone. But I think Parker must have known that something was up, that someone had been there, because she then developed the paranoid trait. Then, out of nowhere, the next day, Beckham gets a phone call from Don Lothario, who he is actually friends with, so I mean that makes sense. But Don calls him saying that he thinks Zoe is gonna propose. Am I not allowed to orchestrate any of my own proposals here? Why are they all happening off screen? Anyway, I think Beckham has enough on his mind, and also Don and Zoe's relationship is very new. They only just got together in the last episode, and last time we saw them, they were beefing. So I had Beckham pick the option of saying to Don, you should decide for yourself, which I think then means that the game will decide for you. Back to the current drama. At this point, I was assuming that Beckham not being able to flirt with Ryan was just a bug, but I decided to embrace that and said that maybe this was Beckham coming around, and maybe he wanted to put an end to the affair, try to rebuild his relationship with his actual wife. But then I noticed that Beckham couldn't even do romantic relationships with Parker. Parker, his wife, who he is married to, he couldn't romance her. And then I had an idea about what could be causing this. So I looked into Beckham's details within Creator Sim. He's gay. He's gay and I gave him a wife. And I feel really bad about this. It didn't even occur to me to check. Sometimes when I'm integrating these randomly generated sims into the world, I'll combine two of the households and put them in a relationship, maybe give them a family, just to provide a bit of variety, because otherwise Oasis Springs would just be populated with single young adults. So I did this with Parker and Beckham, not realizing that Beckham is gay. So this changes everything. Now you may be thinking, if he's gay, why is he having an affair with a younger woman? I reckon that this would have been a pretty recent realization for him. And maybe at first he thought that it was just that he didn't want to be with Parker anymore. So he decided to shop around a little bit. Listen, I'm not saying it was the best move he could have pulled. Still a shitty thing to do, but I'm trying to make it make sense in this world that we are building together. So that night, after Lacey had gone to bed, I decided to have the two of them sit down for some honest conversations. And they ended up getting the closer from happy memories sentiment, so I guess this went relatively well for them. Parker must have been pretty understanding. They agree to get a divorce, and Beckham immediately develops the hot-headed and non-committal traits, which I found kinda hilarious. I think he's got a lot to come to terms with, and this is only the beginning of his journey. But that's not important. This is Parker's week. She is devastated that they're divorcing. I guess she really did love him. She deals with her emotions by going out and hexing Beckham's giant observatory thing that he has in the backyard. Fair enough. And then she moves out of the house and into an apartment, which is very sparsely furnished because she does not have a lot of money. Her jewelry business has not quite picked up yet. The relationship pregnancy overhaul mod, king of all mods, pretty sure I've mentioned it in every single episode so far, and as always, it is linked in the description. It has a custody system for if two parents split up. We've seen this in action with Babs having custody of Scarlett, but then sending her to Jay's house for a couple of days in episode 2. I'd never tried the option of having two Sims siblings go to court over custody, which I believe means that the game picks who gets custody, and it chose Parker. And I thought this was so interesting because, as we know, Lacey idolizes Beckham, but at this point in our story, nearing the end of the week, Lacey actually had a higher relationship with Parker, unlike at the start of the week. It's because Parker was actually hanging out with her kid instead of having an affair. As it's the first day in this new apartment, Parker and Lacey got a visit from the welcome wagon, which included Dusty, Jay, Ren, and Ren's daughter Peyton, who is now no longer a teen and is officially a young adult. And then later that night, Parker got abducted by aliens and then got a fear of the dark. Poor thing. The next day, Beckham takes Lacey to spend the weekend with him, so now Parker's all alone for the weekend. She's still dealing with the post-divorce sadness, so she must have then been extra sad being all on her lonesome. But this is a chance for Parker to reconnect with herself and her own identity outside of her family. She goes to yoga club, she relaxes in the sauna. Dawn comes in for a bit and just like stands there while a bunch of ladies are sitting in there. Bit weird. Anyway, she goes out with her friends, and in a moment that could have been very juicy, Ryan sat down at her table. Ryan, the subject of Beckham's affair, but the two of them didn't end up interacting. Missed opportunity. And then our week with Parker ends, with her dancing alone in the club, sad about everything that's ended, but excited about where her life could go now. For week 2, we're hanging out with Johnny Zest. Johnny is another pre-made sim. He's quite a frequent romance option for people playing in Oasis Springs. He's outgoing, ambitious, and a goofball, and he dreams of becoming a comedian, but he's 17 days away from becoming an adult, as opposed to a young adult, and he's not really made much progress. He's still on the first milestone of his lifetime aspiration, he's only at level 3 in his career, and he's living in a trailer. Though, that's all coming out kinda judgy. I don't think you need to be at a certain point in life by a certain age. I mean, I graduated uni when I was 20, and now I'm 23 and sitting on my floor talking about Sims. Life is weird like that. But as he has the ambitious trait, I reckon Johnny was hoping he'd be a bit further along by now. Johnny's also got a bit of family drama. If you didn't know, pre-made sim Johnny Zest is actually the disowned and disgraced son of Nancy and Jeffrey Landgrab. The game hints at this in a few different places, but when you start out in a fresh save, it's not actually reflected in the relationships at all. A common problem with Sims 4. But I fixed that, so in this save he is actually part of the Landgrab family tree. But the Landgrabs didn't approve of him dropping out of school to pursue his comedy dreams. In this save, there's actually a bit of extra drama going on, because I made Nancy Landgrab, the head of the Landgrab family, into a spellcaster. I love including occult sims wherever I can, as you can probably tell by how many of them there are in this save. And I've always thought of the Landgrabs and the Goths as like rival spellcaster families. Isn't that fun? So Nancy Landgrab is a spellcaster, and so is her son Johnny. But Johnny is now no longer part of their family, so Nancy has lost her spellcaster heir. I feel like that's a thing. I feel like spellcasters would be concerned with continuing their spellcaster bloodline. And Nancy and Jeffrey have 2 other children, Malcolm, who was pre-made as part of their household, and Daniela, who was born thanks to neighborhood stories. But neither of them are spellcasters, and I feel like Nancy would be a little bit panicked about not having a spellcaster heir anymore, because her husband Jeffrey is just a regular dude. There's a lot of family drama going on in this episode. So Johnny has a negative relationship with both Nancy and Jeffrey, and has literally no relationship with Malcolm or Daniela. Johnny's friends are Babs, Jay, Gavin, Don, and newcomer Anastasia. And for some reason, he hates Simone. I don't know what went down between the two of them, but they got a lot of beef. So this week is Operation Get Johnny's Shit Together. And this actually nicely highlights one of the problems with playing rotationally like this. If you're not there to micromanage this shit, the Sims you're playing will often fall behind in their careers or lose satisfaction in their relationships. Don't even get me started on trying to handle it when they're in university. Oh my god, it's a mess. But the fun of playing this way definitely outweighs the annoyance. A lot of this week is spent with Johnny grinding out his comedy skill. He needs to get to level level 6 to be promoted, and he's only at like level 2. On this first day, whilst he's practicing, his friend Anastasia comes over for a visit. I'm a little bit in love with Anastasia. She's another randomly generated sim, and when I do these makeovers, I try to keep their faces pretty much the same. Same with when I give the pre-made sims makeovers. I want to keep their natural features, but just make them look a little less like that, you know? And Anastasia was so gorgeous. So she just randomly shows up at Johnny's house. They start hanging out, and then she starts flirting with him. Excellent. Johnny's romantic engagements so far have been limited to a brief flirtation with Babs and a failed date with Zoe, and I wasn't too sure where to go from there. But then an opportunity literally knocked on the front door, and who am I to say no to such a gorgeous sim? But then we're back to practicing comedy. The next day, Johnny took some time out of his comedy grind to go to the gym, where he got some fitness mentorship from Don Lothario, and then he started flirting with Don, and Don flirted back, which is insane considering also in this interaction we get confirmation that Don is in fact engaged to Zoe. Dude! Anyway, that was weird. Let's go back to practicing comedy. Johnny has a little night out at the bar with his friends. A few things of note occurred. Johnny became Don's sim of honor for his upcoming wedding. Guess all that flirting paid off? Guys, this is weird. In the background, at one point, Mitchell tried to give Babs a hug and she rejected him. Johnny was dancing with Parker, who he doesn't know, but Parker was looking real sad. Poor gal is going through it. But then, perhaps not all is lost for Ms. Woodward, as she was then spotted having a very intimate, very lingering hug with some random townie. Johnny was then dancing with Anastasia, and the two of them had a cute little moment together. Johnny gets a pop-up saying that he just feels like she just gets him. What cuties! I think Johnny really does like her, but feels like he doesn't have his shit together enough to actually pursue her for real. Oh, because I forgot to mention, but Anastasia has a son, like a whole ass child. And Johnny thinks he needs to be a more put together kind of person before he can be like part of a kid's life. And then Jay asks Johnny to move in with him, to which Johnny says no. Obviously. What was that? Now it's time for Winterfest, which is the Sims equivalent of Christmas. But as Johnny's not exactly spending the holiday with his family, it's more of the same for him today. He's practicing comedy in his pajamas. And since he's trying real hard to save money, he can't even get any decorations. But then, look who randomly shows up at the door. Anastasia arrives, and I am proposing that her kid is staying with the other parent for the holiday. So Anastasia is also all on her lonesome. And knowing that Johnny would be at home by himself, she shows up so that the two of them can celebrate the holiday together. It's so cute. They exchange gifts, they watch a movie, they have a bit of a moment together on the couch, and then Anastasia helps him cook a big old Winterfest ham. Then Johnny gets a text from Malcolm, his brother, who he has no relationship with. Malcolm sends him a meme, which I found hilarious. Like, of all the things to send your estranged brother on Winterfest, you send a meme? Sure. I mean, that kind of checks out. But that's not important right now, because Johnny and Anastasia kiss under the mistletoe. And then she leaves, and Johnny goes back to practicing comedy. The next day, Johnny is at work and he gets a little pop-up. He apparently spied a talent agent in the audience and has the chance to extend his comedy set to earn himself a promotion and a fame level. So obviously we're taking that. Johnny gets promoted to official opening act and is now a 1-star celebrity. Go Johnny! The promotion came with a bit of a monetary bonus as well. So it is time to clear out all of the boxes and crates out of his trailer and to redecorate. He only has enough money to do the lounge, and, you know, it's still pretty bachelor pad-esque, but it's a start. And then he asks Anastasia out on a fancy dinner date, and Anastasia is having such a good time that she asked her to extend the date even longer. Mind you, this happens before the food has even come out, so Johnny must really be wooing her. Also in the background, I saw Nina and Mitchell having dinner with her random child, a child not related to them at all. And then over the other side of the restaurant, I saw Dina and Paige also with a random child. Hello? Have you guys all forgotten that you have your own children at home? Stop dining with random kids. That's creepy. Anyway, it's New Year's Eve. Johnny decides to throw a party for all of his friends, and he goes all out with the decorations, making up for not being able to afford any at Winterfest. He's a one-star celebrity now. He can afford party balloons. The party goes great. Everyone counts down to midnight. Johnny and Anastasia have a little moment. It's very cute. But then, when everyone's leaving, suddenly Anastasia is rejecting him. Every romance interaction fails, and Johnny is feeling real embarrassed. I thought, okay, maybe it's just because it's the end of the night. She's tired and trying to leave. Johnny needs to back off and be respectful. But then, the next day, he invites her over and she's still rejecting him. So he asks what's up, and turns out she finds him unattractive. She is not attracted to this man, and she does not want to be wooed by him. Oh man. And unfortunately, that's where we're leaving poor Johnny Zest. For week 3, we're hanging out with Don Lothario. If you are unfamiliar with the man, the myth, the legend, Don Lothario, oh boy, you're in for a treat. He is, I would say, one of the most iconic Sims in this Sims universe. Historically entangled with both the Calientes and the Goths, as mentioned in the last episode. World-renowned man whore and undeniable icon. He's self-assured, non-committal, and romantic. And unsurprisingly, has the serial romantic lifetime aspiration, the one where basically your sim just wants to date as many people as they can. He's currently unemployed, 10 days away from becoming a fully fledged adult, very low on money, and living in a tiny little apartment all by himself. As we know, he's now engaged to Zoe Patel, who he started dating in the last episode. But in true Don Lothario fashion, he's also romantically entangled with his downstairs neighbor, Juliana. We've got another newcomer! Juliana is actually the sister of Ryan. These ladies kind of need to cool it on the whole other woman front. Though, I'm not slut-shaming them, I'm slut-shaming the people who are cheating on their partners. Actually, these girls are fine. Don's friends include Zoe, Johnny, Gavin, Jay, Babs, Dina, Paige, Brendan, Dusty, Beckham, and of course Juliana. That's a lot, he's a popular guy. When I loaded in, things were feeling a bit tense between him and Juliana, a bit frosty. And I'm gonna go ahead and assume that's because Don is getting married to another woman. So Juliana is rejecting him a lot. But that's okay, because Don goes out to the bar that night and strikes up a flirtation with Nancy Landgrab. The two of them are really hitting it off. It's really something. Don then develops a fear of being cheated on. I don't even know how that's possible, whilst he is the one actively cheating on his fiancée. Though I have heard it said that if your partner ever accuses you of cheating on them, it's probably because they're cheating on you in the first place. Anyway, the next day he visits said fiancée, Zoe, and spends some time canoodling with his bride-to-be. He then immediately goes to the pool and sets his sights on another new lady, Parker Woodward. So, if Don is out here flirting with literally everyone he meets, why is he getting married to Zoe? He's non-committal. Weddings aren't exactly his style. Well, I propose that Don is a gold digger, and he is marrying Zoe for her money and her apartment, which is much nicer than Don's apartment and also has a hot tub. He's a simple man with simple needs, and those needs are limited to money, hot tub, and side chicks. So, one night, Don's out at the club with all of his friends. I didn't have this as a proper bachelor party event, which you can set up with the Wedding Stories pack. It was just a club gathering instead, but I was thinking of it like his bachelor party. And he's there, flirting and dancing with Parker, when suddenly Zoe shows up at the club and she sees him trying to be all saucy. And so now the two of them have a strained relationship dynamic, and she's threatening to break up with him, causing Don to develop a fear of loneliness. This man needs therapy. And then I was trying to get him to apologize. He really wants that hot tub. But then I guess he kept autonomously flirting with other people. So Zoe just broke up with him. Then and there, on the dance floor. The wedding is officially off. And then Jay asked if he could move in with Dawn. Jay, buddy, what is happening? Is everything okay at home? Why are you trying to move in with everyone? Anyway, the game was still saying that they were engaged, despite getting the pop-up saying that Zoe was breaking up with him. So I then had to break them up properly. And then Don got a moodlet saying he was confident because he broke it off with a toxic ex. The way his mind works is a wonder to me. But he's feeling so confident that he invites Parker back to his place. Can't keep this man down. The next day, Dawn gets a text from Nancy Landgrab asking if she can come over to hang out. So I decided to pivot this from Operation Marry Zoe for her hot tub to Operation Marry Nancy for her massive fortune. It's a much smarter plan, I think. Zoe really doesn't have a lot of money, and Nancy lives in a mansion and owns literally every single residential rental in Oasis Springs. And honestly, this could be a win-win for both of them. Dawn gets a rich wife with a massive house, so much room for hot tub, and Nancy gets another shot at producing a spellcaster heir with a younger man. I feel like she'd be blaming the non-spellcasterness of Malcolm and Daniela on her husband Jeffrey, and thinks that if he's out of the picture, she could definitely birth another spellcaster. Never mind the fact that Don also isn't a spellcaster. He's hot, so everything's fine. So him and Nancy are getting to know each other and end up developing this steamy relationship dynamic. I mean, do you expect any less of Don Lothario? Meanwhile, Don's getting all of these cutesy texts from Parker. Ooh. Oh no. Dawn takes Nancy out on a fancy dinner date, and it's weirdly cute. I am a little bit obsessed with the two of them as a pair. I find it equal parts hilarious and actually very fitting. Something weird was happening with Don getting the creation itch moodlet despite not having the ailment that typically causes that. So he keeps waking up in the middle of the night needing to craft something before he can go back to sleep. So I decided to get him a hobby, and now Don Lothario is learning how to knit. It's great. Dawn manages to successfully convince Nancy to leave her husband and replace him with Dawn instead, so Dawn is now officially Nancy's boyfriend. And then Juliana asks Dawn if he wants to come over, and he gets the adoring sentiment for her, and the two of them want to canoodle without Juliana's sister Ryan being around, so they head back to Dawn's place. But then Nancy comes over. So just as things are starting to heat up between Juliana and Dawn once more, he sends her home real quick and starts canoodling with Nancy again. But then Nancy was all in her feels about the divorce, so she ends up just leaving. So John calls Juliana right back over for more canoodling. And then Johnny Zest shows up. Johnny Zest, who briefly flirted with Dawn last week, remember that? And is recently heartbroken over Anastasia not being into him, and is now in Dawn's apartment canoodling. And I don't think that Dawn knows that Johnny is Nancy's son. Oh, this is the worst timeline. Anyway, Dawn gets abducted by aliens. Whatever, he's not pregnant with an alien baby. Though that would have made things real interesting, as if we needed more going on. Dawn asks Nancy when he can finally move in with her, and she says, nah, not right now. And Dawn is like super bummed about it. But I guess not too bummed, because they do then immediately start woohooing. So Dawn decides he needs to step up his game and asks Nancy out on a fancy dinner date once again. And things are going really well. Nancy asks to extend the date twice. And so at the end of the night, Dawn proposes and Nancy says yes. And then Don gets a pop-up saying that he wants to swap his non-committal trait, I would say his most defining Don Lothario trait, to the loyal trait. The greatest plot twist of this entire series. Don Lothario might actually really seriously love Nancy Landgrab enough to cease his endless stream of side flings, which includes Nancy's son. Oh, what have I done? Anyway, let's have a wedding. It's pretty cute. Nancy looks gorgeous, of course. All of Jay's paramours are there, which is hilarious. Dina and Katrina get into a physical fight twice. And then Juliana got into a fight with Brendan. Weird note to end a wedding on, but okay. Whatever. And this incredibly chaotic week concludes with Don officially moving into the Landgrab mansion with his new wife, Nancy Landgrab. Oh my god. Thank you so much for watching. Playing that last week with Don was genuinely some of the most fun I've had in this game. I know it probably doesn't seem like it, but I genuinely usually do try to play somewhat realistically. Like, I'm embracing the chaos, but I do try and keep it within reason. But the idea of Don being a gold digger and pursuing Nancy Landgrab was just too excellent of an idea to pass up on. If you liked this video, check out the rest of the videos on this channel. All of the other episodes of this series are in a playlist for easy binging, and I've got lots of other videos chatting about one of my other favorite games, World of Warcraft. Even if you know nothing about the game, you'll probably still enjoy those videos, so I highly recommend it if you want something to watch. If you want to support me and the channel, and get the opportunity to vote on which household I play next, and get sneaky peeks as I'm playing these households, consider becoming a channel member. It's the best way to support me making more of these videos, and I'm super grateful to everyone who's already signed up. I think that's all I've got. Let me know in the comments who you're keen to see next. I'm thinking it's about time we check up on all of these big families once again, but let me know. Bye! Oh, my ring nearly came off when I did that. Oh boy.